What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Sit Down with Sid podcast. This is episode number 9. And today I have a special friend, a guest on this podcast, Ms. Cathy Gallagher. With over 30 years of experience and a strong client-first mindset, with an extensive international program management experience, she has focused on supporting large global enterprise clients with software implementations, platform optimization, strategic planning, and support. Her industry specialties include life sciences, which is the biotech, pharmaceutical distribution, consumer products, retail, real estate, and property management. She also has been the recipient of several business awards, including recognition for outstanding client services at Oracle. What sets her apart is her passion in customer advocacy and a proven track record in helping customers successfully adopt the products and services they employ with a positive experience and highest levels of success. She currently resides in Sparta, New Jersey. Without any further ado, let's welcome Cathy. Hi, Cathy. Thanks for joining.
Nice to see you, Sid. Thank you.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. I feel like it's the week has been a month long already, but I'm good. I'm happy to be able to spend the time with you. It's a good distraction from the load of things I have to focus on at work.
Well, I'm really happy to have you here. So before we dive into the topic for today, which is very interesting, I would like you to kind of tell the audience, a little bit about yourself, your schooling, family, educational background, and how did you get in this industry?
Okay. So I am a mother of 5 grown children. They live all over the place. One of them is married to a wrestler in WWE, which is, that's a new twist. And been a lot of fun. I have 8 grandchildren. They range from 3 years old all the way to one that will be 21 next month, actually. I live in Sparta, New Jersey, on Lake Mohawk, and I from a career and education perspective, I started out very young in a direction of having a family. I got married very young. I did some college with Penn State University, and then moved in right away to really just getting into the IT industry. I was attracted to, back then they called it data processing, right? And I loved that. I think it's because I have a very analytical mind. So computer programming and trying to figure out, driving outcomes, right, in programs and things really was very interesting to me. So in spite of actually never really finishing my college degree, I was lucky enough to get into different companies. First in industry, I started out with a dental products manufacturing company. My first day on the job, I had to cross a Teamsters picket line, and I was a computer operator there. And then those skills that I learned through that brought me to a very large manufacturing printing company that worked in the cosmetics and pharmaceutical consumer products space, printing labels for those products. And I got to be part of them really automating and transforming their business through technology. They had done everything manually. So I got to learn every job, procurement and press scheduling and all of these things, so that I could then be the translator to the consulting team. So that gave me really almost, I think I got my college degree there just by learning how to do these jobs and, really being the business solutions person that would articulate those needs and requirements to the consulting firm. Later on, I got into the food brokerage business, both as a broker, and then also I worked for Cisco Foods for a while in the distribution of restaurant products and things like that. And later moved to my first software IT firm that I worked for was a company, very small consulting firm that was working in the life sciences space, implementing global solutions around financials, distribution, and manufacturing. I went in as a project manager, and that's really what launched my international travel side of my career, which I absolutely loved because, you know, I had to learn about cultural differences. My first project was in Manila in the Philippines, and I had to learn, you know, how to communicate with a project team that I would be with for 2 weeks and leave them with parting wisdom and things to do, and come back in 2 weeks and look for it to be done, and realize that, you know, culturally, their way is to say they understand you maybe when they don't, right? Because they don't want to say, hey, I'm not sure what you mean. They just say, yes, yes, I've got it. And then you come back and you realize a lot of things weren't understood. So it really stretched me, you know, to really think about how to communicate in different cultures. I also went on to work in Japan for a year. I joined a company called JD Edwards. It's now part of Oracle. And they were looking for consultants to go to Japan because they acquired a very small firm, a small consulting firm that they wanted to onboard into their business to help with implementations in Japan. I had to learn how to speak business Japanese. I took 3 of my 5 kids with me.
Oh, wow.
It was crazy, right? So and then from there, I actually, through acquisition, ended up at Oracle in a role that allowed me to work with very large life sciences companies. And I got to travel to many countries, right? Doing that, Australia, France, England. And again, I think I have a keen awareness of really, you know, it's not just a language, right? That you have to learn to mitigate outcomes and bring success to what you're doing together. So I then left Oracle and went to work for a smaller firm that was focused on one of Oracle's ERP product lines, JD Edwards. I was there for 9 years, and I, again, you know, anywhere that I can learn and grow is amazing to me. And I held positions in delivery around consulting. And then my CEO there said, you know what, you really should be in sales. And even to this day, I say, please don't say I'm the sales guy, because I connect with clients through, you know, understanding and looking for the signs of what their culture is, what their needs are, right? And empathizing with them to get things done. And it's really helped me to be successful. So then I moved on to the company I work for now. It is a sales role, and I'm leading a fantastic, very diverse team in terms of the roles that they're fulfilling. We've brought new roles into the fold to help this company in their North America location, which is really in a startup mode. It's a company that's actually owned outside of the US, which has been another challenge for me to, it's the first time I've worked for a non-US company, right? And there's lots of
So
cultural
where is this company
diversity.
based off, Cathy? Abosys, correct?
Yes.
Where is this company based? Where are the headquarters of this company?
Well, they're based in India.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, they're based in India, and then there's a pretty large presence in UK, but they're in Middle East
Mm-hmm.
as well. They're in Southeast Asia. We're just opening operations up in Canada. And what we're doing here is saying we're going to make, and by the way, I should add that, you know, our focus area is Oracle Cloud applications. We only do that. We don't say, hey, we'll do Dynamics or SAP. We're totally committed to Oracle. And what we're trying to do is transform from being a sales arm of an India-owned company to a full-fledged, operating entity in North America where Oracle is headquartered, right? So we just had our first year. My GM actually joined 4.5 weeks before I did.
Oh,
And
wow.
the year closed June 30th, and great growth and great strides, but still a lot of work to be done. It's been
Hey,
great.
listen, with your outgoing personality and being so charming, I would say you're a perfect fit for your role. So, you know,
Thank you.
I'm 100% positive about that, and I'm sure the company will appreciate your efforts and outlook. Uh,
They haven't kicked me out yet, so it's been good. It's
let's
been
not discuss
great.
that. So, Cathy, now today's topic is very interesting. Uh, I tried to divide this topic in three different silos. Um, First one being is the woman in tech industry. Yourself, you're in the tech industry, and it's a very interesting global topic, you know. And before I ask you some questions in this segment, I just want to share some stats with you and the audience. Okay, so according to stats from CNBC, Forbes, Women Tech, only about 25% of the jobs in technology are held by women in 2021. This is the latest number, right?
Mm-hmm.
71% of the women in the tech industry were twice as likely to be furloughed or laid off than their male counterparts. 39% of the women viewed gender bias as a primary reason for not being offered a promotion. And 50% of the women said that they have experienced gender discrimination at work. So, I mean, these numbers are staggering. I mean,
They are.
25% just held in 2021. So that being said, since you're in this industry, I want to ask you, what are some of the biggest challenges women face in the tech, or shall I say the pervasive bro culture industry?
So, well, I wanted to make a comment when you said about that there's a statistic that says 25% of the jobs in the tech industry are women holding those positions.
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, I went to a conference in Florida. It was the Gartner IT Symposium, and it's a fantastic experience to go there. And as you can imagine, there's lots of keynotes. There's famous football players, right, that are up there giving a keynote.
Right.
And when I walked into the room with my CEO, we were trying to find our colleagues, where they saved seats for us. And I said, just stop for a second. We're behind all the heads, right? You can see all the heads. And I said, what do you notice about this room? And he said, that I can't find Dave. And I said, I understand, but what do you see about this room? And he said, I don't know. And I said, okay, what do you not see a lot of? Let me make it simple for you. And, there weren't a lot of blonde, long-haired, ponytailed, there weren't a lot of women in the room. And it really does support the statistic that you said. So I think the challenges are the stats you gave speak to that. Personally, I can say that it's difficult there, and I just want to frame this up and say that I don't pay attention to stats so much. I focus on my own experiences, right? And often when I can't figure out any other reason why I'm experiencing what is happening, whether it's that, why am I not heard? Why is it when I say it, nobody hears it, but if so-and-so says it, and then I go, oh, it's because I'm a woman, I forgot. Like, I try not to focus on that, right? I do, I really, really do try not to focus on that. But sometimes when you rule out every other reason, that's really kind of what you're left with. So I would say for me, it's often a feeling of being left behind, talked over, and that not being heard, right? You could say exactly the same thing with the same 38 words, but nobody hears you. I actually, Sid, it was funny. I was watching one of my favorite shows that kind of numbs my brain, Grey's Anatomy. And in the beginning, there's always a voiceover with some, some thought that Meredith Grey has to say. And she was talking about that, and I actually looked this up and verified it, that science shows that men do not process the sound of a woman's voice the way that they do a male voice. And it's not just about the pitch, right? It's that it comes out very melodic, like they almost, it's like they're hearing a song. And so they drift away and they get distracted and they listen to somebody else and they didn't hear what you said, right? So I found
That's
that very
interesting.
interesting, right? Very
Wow.
interesting.
So I mean, based on the stats, from just my understanding, I can see, kind of discrimination, uh, the lack of job security, the feeling of lack of job security, kind of, reflects these stats. Um, so what do you think? Okay, let me put it this way. So, how do you think companies can support women in tech industries like yourself, who wants to be heard, being the top executive? What do you think companies can do?
Well, the obvious things, speaking to the statistics, are pay them equally if they deserve it, right? And they have the
Hmm.
skills,
Yeah.
promote them when they deserve it, because they have the skills. But I think, we all, especially in, larger companies that are subject to laws, right? We go through diversity training and what not to say, right? Diversity awareness and sexual harassment and all of those things. We even go through Myers-Briggs, right? You have a team and, why does Cathy act this way and approach projects this way, but Mary does it different and John does it some other way. So
Right.
you learn about different personality types and the things that make up, how people respond. But I've never seen anybody ever teach on leveraging the clear scientific differences between a male and a female, right? And they will focus on the negatives. Like, for example, I hear a lot of women say that if I debate something in my group, I'm being called emotional. But when a man has the same debate, they're passionate, right? So it's, where's the training, right, that says that women are going to approach things in a certain way, right? They're nurturing, they're analytical. Another thing that often gets said is they talk too much. Like, it seems like men want you to speak in bullet points, right? Just give me the bullet points, right? And where we approach things very methodically, and very thoroughly. And I think it's because of the pressure that we have to prove that we know what we're talking about, right? And that we have to demonstrate so much more than bullet points can convey. So I think I would love to see some training about how do you leverage, and I would say the same conversely, right? How do you leverage the strengths and traits that a woman brings, and how do you leverage the strengths and traits that a man brings, right? Versus let's just accept that that's the way they are, let's ignore it, or even patronize or discriminate, right, against it.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, because if an industry is dominated by 75% by male counterparts, it's a little bit challenging for women to fit in that, kind of culture. And I also feel, now this is just my opinion, that these principles also evolved from the uh, cultural background of the origin of the headquarters, where the company comes from. So as
Right.
you said, you have worked in Japan, you have worked in Australia, now you're working
Philippines.
with a company in India. So
Mhm.
I'm sure you will face challenges. Even everyone else, you will see things differently. You will have to learn to adapt to their culture, their business ethics, business practices.
Right.
So, so I guess if the company is able to provide more kind of mentoring opportunities and kind of promote women in more in a leadership role, I guess that can kind of bring the balance more in like equality, or in the
Yeah.
equilibrium state.
Yeah, and I will say that, and I mentioned earlier that I do have a nature to understand the culture and where somebody's coming from, regardless if it's, race or a nationality or whatever that might be. So I do that, and I try to really be thoughtful about the things that I say, and how that might be taken. What I'd like to see that is that it's also reciprocated, because I don't think that it necessarily one has to conform and the other doesn't, right? So let's meet in the middle and really understand and learn from each other.
Right.
That's really important to me.
Uh, so Kathy, now with this, the pandemic, that happened since is still going on since last March. How do you think the remote work has impacted, especially women in tech industry, based on your own experience as well?
So fortunately for me, I don't have any kids at home, but I have daughters who have kids, right? And their friends that have kids. And I see circumstances where even if the woman and the man both worked outside of the home before the pandemic hit, now they're both home and the kids are home as well because of
Right.
remote learning and stuff. There are situations where it's you're the caretaker, you solve this, keep the noise down, but still try to, juggle your job. And I don't mean that to be an indictment across the board that every scenario is that way. I'm just saying that those beliefs and those philosophies still exist even in the younger generation. But again, not everywhere, but I've seen it.
Okay.
Then you see households where they work it out, right? And
Right.
but you see a lot that, well, my position is this, yours is that, handle the kids, right? So,
Um, I mean, I can name few women who are like kind of the honorable mentions, women in tech, such as Sheryl Sandberg, who is the CEO of Facebook. We have Amy Hood, who is the Executive Vice President and CFO at Microsoft Corporation, and Belinda Johnson, who is the CEO at Airbnb, and she joined back in 2018. So,
mhm.
I mean, once again, it's all about finding that, solution, because once again, these three women are kind of a role models for women in tech industry.
They are. So I'm just going to be honest. I'll tell you two things. One, I celebrate when I see the appointment of a woman as a CEO. I have worked in companies where there has been a woman as a CEO, and I've had experiences that have caused me to say there are certain women who make it a man's world, right? Because they forget, they forget about the women around them. They forget what it's like to be a woman in that place, right? And then I've seen, I've been in companies, clients, and the like, where they really do go out of their way to bring the other women along,
Correct.
so it's important if you get to that role to remember everybody else, right? In the process.
Absolutely. Uh, Going back to, I mean, these were some great insights from your end, and I really appreciate you for highlighting this on the podcast, so the audience has more awareness. Uh, that being said, let's move on to another interesting topic, which is the woman in culturally diverse environment or
Mm-hmm.
at workplace. Uh, Once again, I just want to read you one number, a stat, before I ask you something. According to Catalyst, Fortune 500 companies with women on their boards has significantly higher returns on equity, 53%, better sales, 42%, and a two-thirds greater ROI than companies with all male boards. So I find that very, very intriguing, interesting.
Yeah.
You know, so that being said, what do you think are some of the elements, some of the main elements of a cultural diverse environment at
Well,
workplace?
I mean, there's the normal categories, right, of race, ethnicity, age, people's ability, their college degree levels, education levels, language, nationality, gender, religion, sexual orientation, right? Those are all those categories. For me, I would say the space that I float in is age and gender.
Why
I'm,
is that?
huh?
Why is that? Like you're picking up these
Well,
age and gender.
because I'm a woman, right? So, and then the age part of it is that I'm a woman that's 63. And maybe I should be ready to retire, which I don't really have any plans to do that.
Well, you don't
Um,
know 63, so
yeah, yeah. And then there have been scenarios where even race has been a factor, being a 63-year-old white woman,
okay,
as well.
okay. Uh, so how do you think how does these elements affect a woman in the workplace? Like, if you wanted to elaborate a little bit more, as you said, some of the elements, um, like being a woman, how do you think these different components affect you at your workplace?
So, I mean, if you talk about age, right, not just for myself, I worked in a company previously where while the folks that hired them were not, older men, but they were old enough to know better,
Hmm.
right? They focused on if they were attractive. They the people, the women came to learn, and to grow, and through an internship program. And um luckily, I saw that both of them realized what was happening, and they just got out, and they went on with their careers. And they had the education. Obviously, they were fresh out of college. They were attractive. They were very, very bright. But it was almost as though their skills and their intelligence was put on a back burner. And then, I'd say it's like, where are you on the age spectrum? If you're a woman, if you're an older woman, um, there may be expectations that you can't keep up, right? Give that position to someone younger, versus, like, let's just know the person as an individual, right? What are their goals, right? And really promote the growth and development that they seek in the workplace.
So Kathy, now, so let's this question I want to ask you. So say for example, you own a company where you have more females than males, right? Now, I have two questions on this. Number one, what is the definition of leadership in your eyes? And if that was the case, how would you promote that in the company where you have more females than males to have the equilibrium?
So, starting with leadership, for me, leadership to me is for me to enable the people that follow me to be successful. And I judge myself on my leadership effectiveness on how successful my people are. And also recognizing that when you hire people, women or whatever, right? You're hiring people for their experience, their skills, right? Their wisdom, and whatever the value prop is that they bring to the table. promote them, right? Promote them not just, from one position to another, but promote them and talk about their successes. Not My success is that I brought an asset into the company.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for me to take what they said or did as though it's my own, right? So when you give people an environment where they can flourish, they can grow, they can develop, and they can really strut their stuff, right? That means you're a good leader. You know how to choose people. So that's a good reflection on you. And if you create an environment where they can be successful, then everybody wins. The company wins. I meet my goals, right, when they meet their goals.
I guess that's actually a great insight and how you see leadership and how you want to promote it in an organization. And I hope the tech industry can take some points away from your speech, as I can say. So last but not the least, the third topic I wanted to touch base was women empowerment, right? So I came across an article, and I actually was baffled with this number, and I actually had to go back again and again to read it correctly if I was making a mistake. This is by United Nations Women, okay? Globally, are you ready? 2.7 billion. I'm going to repeat this number. 2.7 billion women are legally restricted from having the same choice of jobs as men. I could not believe the number. As I said, I said, am I making a mistake? I read it over and over again. Over 2.7 billion women are legally restricted from having the same choice of jobs as men. I mean, what do you say to that? That's just mind-boggling.
So, well, a couple of reactions. I'm thinking that the laws in the United States protect us from that, right? However, there are ways around it, right? But nonetheless, there are laws in place that protect us from that. And then I would say that in a sense, it explains some of what I experience outside of the US, right? Where they're not getting promoted, right? They're passionate, incredibly passionate, intelligent women, and they're stuck. They're stuck where they are. And it's that's an astounding number. Astounding number.
So why do you think why is empowering women and girls so important in our society and at work? So everything combining together,
So, well, I would start by acknowledging that they need the empowerment, right? They crave to be noticed as young girls, young women. Some young girls still live in a family culture or, a country culture where they are pushed down. And that's in the US as well. And then the same would be for young women and women of any age, right? So these, companies creating cultures where women can be empowered by teaching how to leverage the qualities that they bring to the equation, to the problem solving, whatever that might be, and teaching inclusion, right? Don't leave them behind. I think that why is it important? Because if you think about what I said from a leadership perspective, I'm just one leader in a small sea of, leaders in my company. But when I look at being a leader, the empowerment for my people, gender aside, to be successful makes them successful, makes me meet the goals that are meant for me to achieve. It makes the company, it rolls up, right? So if you don't empower an incredibly important population that does bring nuances and different traits to be leveraged towards success, then I think society is being held back, right? And the opportunity to learn and to flourish and to change, I think, is squelched if you don't provide the empowerment.
That's a great point. So let me ask you, Cathy, now, what makes you empowered as a woman? This is more of a personal question, but I would like the audience to, hear from you.
I thought about this when I saw the question earlier, and my knee-jerk reaction is when it's acknowledged that I've been heard. Because when you're not heard, or you perceive or feel like you're not heard, it really it's staggering. It's crippling, right? That you have things to say and you have something to bring to the table, but it needs to come from somebody else because nobody hears you. When I get that that empowerment and that enablement, right, then I flourish. I become even more open, right? It will reflect in my outcomes, and it makes me be a greater leader, right? So when I look at my team is telling me what what their obstacles are, what their successes are, their ideas and their feedback for change and to optimize things. If I then have to bring that forward to a forum where I can't be heard, it's devastating as a leader to say, yeah, but I don't have the power, I don't have the voice. It's a feeling of not having the voice. I don't have the voice to do it. I have all the right ideas. Of course I can learn, right? If I'm heard, right, then you can talk back to me and say, but did you consider this? And, or what about that? Or how about we try this, right? I crave that, but you have to be heard first to be able to learn, right? So
Yeah,
that's my reaction to it.
yeah. I mean, I totally understand where you're coming from. So because you yourself as a leader is leading a team who is looking for your feedback for improvement. But once again, if your voice cannot be heard at the higher position, it's a letdown for the whole team.
Yeah, everybody suffers.
Yeah, everybody suffers. So I guess it must be very challenging for you to keep them inspired, keep them motivated.
Yeah, I mean, it's great, right? When you think about it at the end of the day, especially being in a sales role, at the end of the day, salespeople want to make their number, they want to make money, right?
Right.
I'm an anomaly. I'm not driven that way. I get in trouble a lot. Like when I interview for jobs, I'm told, you don't really talk like a salesperson, because I don't spew all the facts and statistics of my
Right, right,
sales
right,
numbers, right?
right, right.
But if eventually, if I'm not effective, they're going to lose faith in me and they're going to look
Yeah,
to do something else, right? Because you know that old saying that you don't leave the company, you leave your manager, right? And so if they don't feel like I can be effective and that I'm being heard on their behalf, right, then they'll move to another group, they'll leave the company, right?
that's true.
So
So Kathy, now, um, what is your message to the audience, especially females who are watching this podcast? Uh, being the female leader, what is your message to them?
find your voice, um, gravitate to places where you can be empowered because there's training and education and acceptance and inclusion, right? Don't stay where you are, right? Don't accept what you're seeing. Fight the good fight for yourself first, right? But remember that everything that you do is an opportunity for people to learn from. And so if you find your voice and you continue a journey for your own empowerment, that journey will teach other people, right, to notice and might even inspire. I just read something on Facebook the other day, something along the lines that when you go through a difficult journey, one of the most rewarding things you can take away from what you went through is that other people will also learn from it and it'll be easier for them. So, you know, fight the fight, look for it, find your voice.
Well, Cathy, this has been a blast. I mean, what a great podcast this has been. I've learned so much from you, and I appreciate you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to actually be a part of this journey. And you will be heard now. You're on one of the biggest social media platforms, and I'm
Thank
sure
you.
you will get a lot of respect for what you have contributed today. Uh, that being said, Cathy, once again, I want to thank you very much, and I want to close this podcast with a quote by United Nations. Gender equality is not only a fundamental human right, but a necessary foundation for a peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world. So, guys, let's make this world a better world for all of us. And till next time, have a good one. Thanks, Cathy. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Bye. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.